The first shot is a man on his knees in the snow, getting dragged away from the only warm door left on Earth. No backstory yet, just guards twisting his arms, children crying behind the barricades, and a crowd screaming like this one bleeding man personally scheduled the apocalypse. Taesung points straight at him and shouts, "He sabotaged the bunker." The public screen above the gate flashes red. System voice, oxygen override detected. User, KANGJUNHO. The gate fans cut out for 3 seconds. That is all it takes. People gasp, a child starts coughing, someone screams that the air is being stolen. Now the crowd has fear, a red screen, and a name. Humanity turns into a comment section with frostbite. Kang Junho tries to stand, but a security officer drives him back down. The crazy part is not that Junho is being accused. The crazy part is that this is his bunker. He designed the oxygen routes. He designed the emergency tunnels. He designed the seal system keeping these people alive. And now his own name is being used as the murder weapon. Taesung does not need the lie to survive forever. He needs it to survive long enough for the door to close. A worker near the front grabs Junho by the collar. Years ago, Junho saved this man's daughter during a construction fire. That same man punches him in the mouth. Junho hits the ice, catches himself with one hand, and still does not swing back because his son is watching. Kang Siwon is 17. Pale, and stuck in the worst position a kid can be in. His father is bleeding outside. The screen says his father is dangerous. Every adult around him is staring like his face is about to decide the truth. And behind him stands Sera. Sera walked in with that rich, villainous energy where she could ruin my credit score. And I might still ask if she needs anything else. But the second her hand settles on Siwon's shoulder, the joke dies. She could ruin my credit score, and I'd thank her for the experience. But doing this to a grieving kid, while his dad gets thrashed outside. That is pure villain behavior with perfume on it. She leans close and whispers, "If he comes inside, none of us survive." Junho lifts his head. His lip is split. Blood is already freezing near his chin. "Siwon," he says, "look at me." Security rips the architect badge off his coat. That badge is not decoration. It is the reason the bunker has air. A guard throws it into the snow like it is trash. Junho reaches into his coat and pulls out a small pendant. It belonged to Siwon's mother. Junho's fingers barely work, but he still straightens the chain before offering it. That tiny move hurts more than the punch. He is bleeding in front of a mob, and he still does not want to hand his son something tangled. Siwon's hand lifts, just a little. Sera's thumb presses into his shoulder. Not enough for anyone else to notice. Enough for him to stop. He looks at the oxygen warning. He looks at Sera. Then he steps back. Junho keeps his hand out. Nobody takes the pendant. A woman slaps Junho so hard his head turns, and the mob treats that as permission. Someone kicks his ribs. Someone spits on his sleeve. Security drags him by both arms, while people shout traitor like repeating it makes them clean. The pendant falls into the snow. Sera bends down and picks it up. She does not give it to Siwon. She closes her fist around it. Junho reaches once more, not for the bunker, for his son. Siwon does not move. The door shuts. The noise cuts off, and above the sealed side gate, one dead security camera rotates toward Junho. No power, no operator. Just one dry mechanical click as the lens focuses on his face. Nobody in the crowd sees it. But remember that. The cold starts eating him immediately. His fingers stop bending first, then his knees start giving out. Every breath comes shorter than the last. Behind him, the bunker lights glow through reinforced glass. Inside, people are hugging. Some are praying. A few elites are already drinking, because rich people will schedule champagne during extinction if the glasses match the table. Junho reaches the nearest emergency station. Empty. Second station. Stripped for the third station. The shelves still have supply labels, which is just evil. If you steal the medicine, at least have the decency to steal the menu too. He keeps walking because stopping means dying. His coat is torn near the ribs. Blood freezes into the fabric. One hand hangs useless at his side. He finds an emergency beacon under the snow and hits the switch. Nothing. The power core is gone. Of course it is. If greed had a rewards program, these people would have diamond status. Junho falls beside a broken service marker. He tries to push up, but his palm slides across the ice. Through the storm, he sees the bunker lights again. For a second, his wife's voice comes back. Years ago, beside Siwon's bed, she pressed the pendant into Junho's hand and said, "If the world gets ugly, keep our boy human." Junho opens his mouth. No sound comes out, but our favorite system is here to save the day. System voice, system editor detected. Junho blinks slowly. The message stays. Confirming subject. Question, do you still wish to save humanity? That is a nasty question to ask a man humanity just threw into the freezer. All his life, Junho would have said yes. After all, he built shelters for strangers. He designed survival systems for people who never thanked him. He gave billionaires a way to save the world, and they used it to turn his son against him. This time, Junho gives the honest answer. No. System voice, authorization accepted. The snowflakes around him freeze in place. Thin labels appear over the broken road. The buried cables, the dead heater box beside him. For the first time since the door shut, something says Kang Junho belongs in the system. At first, Junho thinks the cold has finally cooked his brain. The world has settings now. A cracked wall has a strength value. A heater has an output value. Even the snow has numbers floating over it, which feels disrespectful. Imagine dying, and the universe finally opens the settings menu. Junho reaches toward the nearest heater label. System voice, heat output, 0%. He changes it to 100. System voice, edit rejected. Range too large. Good, the magic apocalypse computer has rules. He tries 5%. System voice, edit accepted. A weak pulse of heat moves through the panel. Not enough to save him forever, but enough to keep his fingers from going dead. Junho drags himself into a broken maintenance booth and finds an old battery under the floor. He connects it to the shelter heater. This time, desperation beats caution. He forces the output to maximum. System voice, edit accepted. The heater roars. For 12 seconds, it works. Then the battery blows. A medicine case cracks open and burns before he can grab it. He needed that. The blast also rings across the ice. Something answers. A beast slams through the ceiling and knocks Junho across the room. He rolls under the first claw, grabs a metal pipe, and drives it into the creature's jaw. The pipe snaps. The beast keeps moving. Junho reaches for the label over its body. Target, ice beast. He tries to change its health. The system chimes. Direct entity edit locked. The next hit throws him into the wall. He stops trying to edit the beast. He edits the room. The panel says, floor grip 88%. Junho drops it to 3. The beast lunges, loses traction, and slides sideways into the exposed battery spike. Its own weight drives the spike through its neck. The body thrashes once, smashes a crate into Junho's leg, and goes still. Junho stays down for one breath. He just lost the medicine and most of the battery, but he learned the rule. He may not be able to rewrite monsters, but he can rewrite the ground under them. The air glitches, spitting out a cold audio cue. Pattern match confirmed. Original architect recognized. Junho stares at the message. The system is not obeying him like a random survivor. It is recognizing him like an old account logging back in. That is not just a power-up. That is a problem with a loading screen. Inside the bunker, Lim Taesung raises a glass and announces, humanity has been saved. People are still freezing outside the window, but this is billionaire math. If they are inside, humanity survived. If they are outside, that is just weather with poor networking. The room applauds. Executives clap like they did not just feed the bunker's architect to the storm. The fake oxygen alert plays behind Taesung on repeat. Edited clean enough to make Junho look guilty to anyone who wants comfort more than truth. C1 sits near the front beside Sera. He does not clap. His hands stay wrapped around a warm cup he has not touched. Sera places a white tablet on the saucer. The doctor said this will help you sleep, she says. C1 looks at the tablet, then at the black camera feed where his father disappeared. Sera's voice lowers. Your father made his choice. You were brave enough to make yours. C1 swallows the tablet. The panel does not linger, but it stays long enough to show his hand tightening around the cup until the liquid shakes. This was never a clean betrayal. This kid was being worked on before the gate ever opened. Outside, Junho does not become a loud revenge maniac. Respectfully, he has the right, but Junho survives the way he built everything. He tests, he measures, he keeps the smallest useful thing and cuts the rest. He marks which pipes still carry heat. He turns broken panels into walls. He reroutes a dead service line into a weak heater. When a frost crawler drops from the ceiling and wraps around his coat, Junho hits the ladder frame shoulder first, grabs a valve, and changes the pressure by 3 points. Steam blasts the crawler off him. It hits the floor and freezes solid. Junho cuts out its heat gland and plugs it into the shelter system. No victory speech, just survival with unpaid overtime. Over the next few days, Junho follows routes only the original construction crews knew. Drainage shafts, cable tunnels, buried weather stations. He finds hidden caches that never reached the official map. Because years ago, Junho did not fully trust the people funding the bunker. Smart, paranoid, yes. Correct, also yes. Inside one cache, he finds a sealed blueprint tube marked with his private symbol. The blueprint shows a forgotten line into the bunker network. Not an entrance, not a door, a camera backdoor. Enough to watch. Junho builds an access console from cracked monitors and salvaged cables. The first feed he opens is not Taesung. It is C1. The screen shows a public memorial. For 1 second, Junho thinks they are honoring him. Taesung walks onto the stage and says, Kang Junho will be remembered as the man who nearly destroyed humanity's final refuge. There it is. They did not just steal his bunker. They stole the story and gave him the villain edit. The screen shows the oxygen warning. It shows Junho outside the gate. It does not show Taesung accusing him first. It does not show Sera whispering. It does not show the crowd beating him. The crowd applauds. Some people believe it. Some people are scared not to. Some people inside that bunker already know clapping is cheaper than disappearing. C1 sits in the front row. He claps late, only after Sera looks at him. Junho watches that delay. His hand moves toward the screen, then stops before touching it. He copies the entire memorial file. That is a problem for the future. The memorial gives him rage. The logs give him proof. The first date is wrong. Junho's access restrictions were created before the eternal winter hit. His removal order was scheduled 3 days before the bunker seal. The oxygen warning had his name loaded in advance. A crowd control file says, "Visible panic trigger required." Bro, they wrote the mob like a stage play. Junho scrolls lower and sees a panel saying, "Remove architect access prior to final seal." Another file opens. Assign family contact control to YOO Sera. Junho's hand goes still. Family contact control. That is not security. That is kidnapping with office formatting. He searches C1's name. Medical access. Visitation limits. Behavior notes. One report says C1 is responsive to dependency conditioning. If your blood pressure just stood up, then good. That is the correct response. Inside the bunker, C1 hears his first crack in the lie by accident. Two workers argue in low voices. One says Junho wanted the civilian intake gates kept open until the final hour. The other says, "Do you want to vanish? Stop saying his name." C1 steps closer. The floor panel creaks. Both workers shut up. Sera appears at the end of the hall. Of course she does. "C1," she says, "why are you wandering?" He says he heard his father's name. Sera smiles gently, which is worse than anger because anger at least admits it has teeth. "Some truths are poison," she says, "but that is exactly what people say when they are holding the bottle." She asks if he took his stabilizer. C1 lowers his eyes. The tablet is still in his pocket. He says yes. Sera watches him for a second too long, then touches the same shoulder again. C1 does not pull away, but his fingers close around the tablet until the edge presses into his skin. Not rebellion yet, a receipt. Junho follows the hidden blueprint to a forgotten utility bunker connected to the main complex. No luxury suites, no private spa, no wine wall for people who think suffering is for the lower floors. Just pumps, vents, old servers, and a door frozen shut. Junho edits the hinge temperature by 2 degrees. The ice softens, the door opens. Inside, a dead security drone drops from the ceiling and rams him in the chest. Junho hits the floor, rolls before the second strike, and jams a broken cable into its open panel. He changes the power route to ground. The drone drops beside him. The bunker AI wakes up. The screen flashes. Identity scan initiated. Junho stands in the dark control room, one hand pressed against his ribs. Original chief architect confirmed. Administrator privileges restored. For the first time since the mob, a machine says his name like it belongs to him. Junho breathes in. One corner of his mouth lifts, and anyone who has watched enough Manhwa Origins knows. You do not frame the quiet engineer inside his own smart bunker. That is not strategy. That is asking the house to snitch. Junho does not open the gates. He does not announce himself. Bad villains expect revenge to look like fire. Smart revenge looks like permissions. First, he reclassifies private elite food reserves as emergency communal stock. An executive opens his personal pantry and finds nothing. 2 floors below, workers receive real meat in their ration trays for the first time in weeks. Nobody explains it. Beautiful. Next, Junho adjusts door access. A billionaire tries to enter his private spa. System voice, access DENIED. Non-essential luxury area. He tries again. The door refuses again. This man has probably never been rejected by furniture before, and you can see his soul buffering. Then the heating shifts. Elite suites drop to barely warm. Worker dorms become livable. A senator raises his hand to slap a maintenance worker, and the automatic door opens at the perfect time. The metal panel smacks him straight in the face. I'm not saying Junho planned that exact moment. I am saying the bunker has taste. Taesung storms into the control room and demands answers. The chief technician says the system is treating private hoarding as a survival threat. Taesung slaps him. The lights flicker. Every screen shows the same line. Unauthorized resource hoarding flag. The room goes still. Sera says nothing. She just looks at the old architecture map on the wall. Because Sera is evil, not stupid. She knows only one person built the system to punish greed this cleanly. Later, alone in her suite, she opens a drawer. The pendant sits inside. She places one finger on it, then shuts the drawer. Junho watches through the utility feed. He could reveal himself. He does not. He saves the footage. Another quiet file. Another future body bag for Taesung's reputation. Then the apocalypse stops acting random. Taesung sends 6 armored scouts outside to recover a missing supply cache. Because rich people only remember the outside exists when their stakes vanish. The team moves with drones overhead and thermal rifles ready. An ice beast appears on the ridge. The scouts aim. A second beast blocks the retreat path. A third waits near the broken radio tower until the team shifts left. Then it charges. That is not hunting. That is positioning. The lead scout calls for extraction. The hatch does not open. One scout gets dragged under the snow. Another fires blind into the storm. A beast crashes into the drone line, knocking every camera out at once. The last signal shows the team running into an old drainage cut. Junho sees it from the utility bunker. He knows that route. It has no exit. The final scout reaches the wall, turns, and raises both hands. The feed cuts black, not because the monsters were stronger, because something was directing them. Junho leaves the utility bunker before Taesung's people trace the access point. He moves through a service trench toward his shelter, staying low under broken signal poles. Halfway there, 3 smaller beasts cross the field ahead. A wounded bunker guard is crawling near a wrecked transport, bleeding through his sleeve. Easy prey, but the beasts ignore him. All 3 turn toward Junho. No roar, no pause. They run. The system chimes. Combat mode activated. Junho drops into the trench as the first beast hits the edge above him. Snow bursts over his back. The second lands inside and swipes. He blocks with a metal brace. The impact drives it into his shoulder. Junho touches the trench wall label. Wall stability, 42%. He drops it to 6. The wall collapses between him and the beast. He runs. A larger shape steps through the storm ahead. A frost brute swings one arm. The backhand catches Junho across the body and sends him through an old signal post. Metal snaps. He hits the ground and forces his hand toward the broken post label. The panel shows support angle 12 degrees. He changes it to 70. The snapped post drops and pins the brute's arm to the ice. Junho staggers up and edits the maintenance bridge ahead. System voice bridge lock closed. He opens it. The panel flashes. Edit accepted. The bridge drops. Junho crosses. For 12 seconds it works. Then the bridge rises behind him by itself. System voice external admin override. Junho stops. The label he changed flickers. Edit reversed. Authority unknown administrator. The frost brute tears free. Junho tries to open the bridge again. Rejected. He edits the snowbank beside him. A gap opens. 12 seconds later, the gap seals from the other side. Not blocked. Edited. Junho looks at the floating text while the monsters close in. Now he understands the board. This is not just Junho versus Taesung. This is not even humanity versus winter. Someone else can touch the rules. Someone else has the same level of access. Someone else watched the mob, watched the gate, watched the first edit, and waited for Junho to learn enough to become worth hunting. The panel prints one line. Observation complete. Subject Kang Junho has entered independent editing path. The floating text blinks. Locate the architect before he reaches the core. Freeze that frame, because this bunker revenge story just got grabbed by the thing that wrote the rules. Hit the like while the core is still looking the other way, because Junho's next move is to build a civilization outside the door. The correct move after learning another administrator is hunting you would be to run. Junho does not run first. He checks the rules. The bridge rejects him. The snowbank closes itself. The monsters are coming from both sides, and the unknown administrator clearly thinks the path is locked. So Junho stops touching the path. He touches the broken signal tower beside it. The tower is outside the override zone. Its support label still answers him. Junho changes one angle, and the whole tower crashes down across the trench, crushing one beast and blocking the frost brute long enough for him to crawl under the wreckage. No speech, no pose, just a half-dead engineer finding the one object the god computer forgot to lock. That is the danger of Kang Junho. He does not need the main door. He only needs the side panel. The next few months are not a clean training montage. Junho survives ugly. He sleeps inside service tunnels, eats expired emergency paste, and keeps moving until he finds an old geothermal plant buried under ice. Most people would see a dead facility. Junho sees heat, water, walls, pipes, and enough underground space to hide people. He calls it Haven 7 because the first 6 locations tried to kill him. Fair naming system. The first survivors who reach him are not brave heroes. They are half-frozen, hungry, and one bad argument away from turning on each other. Junho does not sell them a dream. He gives them rules. If you can work, you stay. If you endanger the shelter, you leave. A nurse gets the infirmary. A farmer gets the mushroom beds. An old radio technician named Bay gets the signal room. A former banker offers gold for a private room. Junho hands him a filter wrench. The man stares at it like Junho gave him a dead animal. Gold means nothing now. Clean water does. A little girl named Mina asks if children get soup too. Junho gives her half his bowl. Nobody laughs after that. Haven 7 becomes the opposite of Taesung's bunker. No investor floor, no luxury ration list, no private warmth for people who think survival should have a membership tier. Everyone works, everyone eats, everyone gets watched. Rumors move through the frozen world. First, people say the traitor is alive. Then they say the traitor has heat. Then someone says, the traitor is saving people. Inside Taesung's bunker, the elites dismiss it as enemy propaganda. But we already know the problem. It is not propaganda. It is competition. The bunker keeps rotting from the inside. Workers line up for watered soup, while elite families eat behind security glass. A maintenance worker asks why private dining rooms still have full power. A guard slaps him so hard his tray hits the floor. The next day, the worker is gone. No announcement, no trial, just an empty bed, and a wife who suddenly stops asking questions. C1 notices. He notices everything now. The stabilizer tablets Sera gives him no longer reach his mouth. He hides them under a loose sink panel, one pill at a time. Sera still treats him gently in public. Clean clothes, warm meals, a seat near leadership meetings. She calls him the future of the bunker, in front of people who want to hear that phrase. That is how good control works. It does not always look like a cage. Sometimes it looks like special treatment. But C1 keeps finding cracks. His father's name is missing from systems he clearly designed. Taesung's name is attached to blueprints he cannot explain. And every time C1 asks one real question, Sera touches the same shoulder. Same pressure, same warning. One night, C1 opens a hidden service panel behind his bed and finds his father's private blueprint mark under the paint. He does not smile. He just copies the mark onto a scrap of paper and hides it in his sleeve. Small move, but a serious problem. Junho's next clue comes from a man running for his life. Two ice hounds chase a wounded executive across a frozen service road. The man's thermal coat is torn, but the gold access trim gives him away. Bunker leadership. Junho could leave him. He does not. He drops the ground grip beneath the first hound and sends it sliding into a steel post. The second jumps, and Junho collapses a frozen pipe over its back. The survivor hits the snow, coughing blood. When Junho turns him over, the man recognizes him. Kang Junho, he says, "You're supposed to be dead." Junho looks at the executive coat. "You first." The man is Director Han, former logistics officer under Taesung. He is also terrified of Sera. So terrified he gained a few pounds. Not Taesung, Sera, with the fear apparently turning him bald. Han says Taesung signed orders, but Sera made people obey them. She handled family pressure, medical control, loyalty interviews, and the quiet removals no one could prove. Then Han says the word Junho has been waiting for. The benefactor. The orders did not all come from Taesung. Some came through a sealed channel with no human sender. Han has an access shard from that channel. It can open one old transit vault. He also says something else, but his breathing breaks before he can finish. Junho takes the shard. That choice costs him. The vault opens under a dead station outside Haven 7. Junho brings 2 scouts and tells Bei to keep the shelter on silent heat until he returns. Inside the vault, he finds one useful map, one corrupted file name, and one phrase that appears on every locked panel. Complete rejection trial. That is all he gets. Before the download reaches halfway, Haven 7's emergency channel breaks silence. Heat breach, Bei says. East pump is under attack. Junho looks at the progress bar, then at the map. He yanks the shard out and runs. By the time Junho reaches Haven 7, the east wing is already burning blue with cold fire. The attack did not come through the main gate. It came through the geothermal waste tunnel. The access shard carried a trace. Sera found the shelter, or the benefactor did. Maybe both. System voice. Combat mode activated. Junho drops into the lower pump room. As frost crawlers pour through the broken pipe, he lowers the floor grip. 2 crawlers slide into the turbine pit. A third leaps from the wall and slams him into the railing. He changes the railing heat by 5 degrees and drives the creature's face into the metal. It sticks. He pulls Mina out from behind a collapsed valve, wraps her in his coat, and pushes her toward the nurse. Bei stays at the manual pump wheel, both hands locked on the crank. If he lets go, the core heat floods the wrong tunnel and cooks the lower shelter. If he holds it, the cold reaches him first. Junho reaches for the override. The label rejects him. External lock. He tries again. Rejected. Bei looks at him once and shakes his head. Junho understands. He takes Mina and runs. The pump room door seals behind him. When the attack ends, Haven 7 is still standing. but barely. 18 people are dead. The east pump is gone. Bay's signal room is empty. Mina lives, but her left hand is wrapped in bandages, and she keeps staring at the door where Bay stayed behind. A woman whose husband died in the east wing walks up to Junho and slaps him. Nobody stops her. Junho does not stop her either. She says, "You brought them here." He looks at the broken access shard in his palm. "Yes," he says, "I did." That is the first time Haven 7 sees their savior fail in public. And it matters. Inside the main bunker, Sera watches the same footage. She does not celebrate. That would be too simple for her. She saves it because Sera understands something Taesung does not. A clean lie is useful. An ugly truth is stronger. Later, she shows Siwon the footage. Mina being carried through smoke. Junho returning too late. The east wing dead. Sera says, "Your father gathers people and the monsters follow him." Siwon's hand closes around the edge of the tablet. She does not have to lie much. That is what makes it dangerous. Then she says, "If he reaches this bunker, he will bring the same thing here." Siwon does not answer, but that night, he takes the hidden stabilizer pills from under the sink and flushes every single one. Sera catches him before morning. No screaming, no guards at first, just her standing in the doorway with that soft voice again. "You are making yourself harder to protect." Siwon says, "I don't want your protection." For a second, her face does not change. Then she steps aside. He thinks she is letting him leave. The next morning, his room has no handle on the inside. The failed vault still gives Junho one thing: a coordinate, the original control facility under the first bunker site. Taesung told everyone it was destroyed. It was not. Junho goes alone this time. No scouts, no shard trace, no one else paying for his risk. The entrance is buried under ice, but the old drainage shaft still connects to the lower floors. Junho cuts through, bypasses 2 dead checkpoints, and reaches a sealed archive room. The first lock accepts his architect mark. The second lock asks for the pendant. Junho's hand stops over the scanner. The pendant is still with Sera. Then Junho opens the footage from the gate. The moment Sera picked the pendant out of the snow, he isolates the image and feeds it through the scanner. Match accepted. The door unlocks. Sera stole his family symbol, and Junho uses the theft as the key. The archive does not give him thousands of answers. It gives him the one answer that matters. It gives him a simulation of the gate. Taesung points before the oxygen alert triggers. Sera practices the exact line she whispered to Siwon. "If he comes inside, none of us survive." The fans cut for 3 seconds. The crowd surge begins. The worker who punched Junho is marked in the simulation as high emotional influence. They chose him because Junho had saved his daughter. Then the final directive appears. Subject must experience complete rejection by humanity before system editor activation. Junho watches the gate scene replay. The accusation, the badge, the punch, the sun, the pendant, none of it was random. The elites thought they were removing a threat. The intelligence was building one. A camera file opens on its own. It shows the dead security camera at the gate rotating toward Junho after the door sealed. Successful observation. The archive wall flashes red. Editor maturity confirmed. Retrieval window open. Junho copies the gate simulation, the directive, and Sera's rehearsal. Not everything enough, because this time, evidence alone will not save anyone. And Sera already has her counterattack. By the 3rd winter year, Taesung's bunker celebrates itself like survival was his personal invention. They call it Founding Day. Taesung's portrait hangs above the hall. Junho's image appears on a smaller screen under one word: traitor. Taesung walks onto the platform and says, "We endured because we removed weakness." The elites clap first. Workers follow slower. Siwon stands beside Sera in formal bunker clothes. On paper, he is fully controlled. In reality, he has spent months mapping civic broadcast lines and hiding blueprint notes inside the wall. He also knows where Sera keeps the pendant. During the ceremony, he slips into her suite, opens the drawer with a copied print, and takes it. The pendant rests in his palm. His fingers shake once. He closes his fist, cause Sera is waiting at the door. She knew he would come for it. That is the part that makes her dangerous. She does not need to stop every rebellion. Sometimes, she lets the rebellion lead her to the bigger target. "Give it back," she says. Siwon says no. She slaps him. The sound cuts through the room. Siwon's face turns with a hit, but his hand stays closed. Sera looks at the pendant chain between his fingers. "I know everything," she says. "But thank you for taking things where I needed." Siwon goes still. Outside, guards start moving toward the old civic broadcast room. Sera has been waiting for Junho's return, and now Siwon just gave her the last piece. Junho does not return with an army. He returns with a damaged shelter behind him, and a network that almost died because of his mistake. Haven 7's remaining towers wake one by one. Smaller survivor shelters answer. Some respond immediately. Some hesitate. The Haven attack footage has already spread through Sera's channels. That is the wound she chooses to press. Inside the bunker, the first screen flickers, then another, then every public display splits in two. On one side, Junho's archive footage plays, Taesung pointing too early, the oxygen alert triggering after, Sera practicing her line, the directive about complete rejection. On the other side, Sera's counterfeed cuts in, Haven's 7 burning, Mina being carried out, Bae sealing the pump room, Junho arriving too late, then Sera's voice fills the hall. Kang Junho has already led one shelter to slaughter. Do not let him do it again. The crowd freezes. This is not the same as the first lie. This one has truth inside it. Taesung sees the hesitation and grabs it. You see, he shouts. Wherever he goes, death follows. For a few seconds, the broadcast war hangs there. Truth against truth. Guilt against proof. Junho could deny it. He does not. His voice comes through the old Civic channel. Haven 7 was traced through a shard I brought in. I missed it. People died because I was wrong. The hall goes quiet. No excuse, no heroic polish, just the cost. Then he says, now listen to what Sera is doing while you watch that footage. C1 barely reaches the broadcast room before the guards. He uses the pendant to open the backup channel and sees the trap instantly. Sera has loaded a purge command into the lower worker sectors. If Junho's signal keeps running, the system will seal those floors and cut heat. Then she can blame him for the deaths. C1 grabs the manual override and holds it down. The room warns him in red. Manual hold required. Temperature drop active. The metal lever begins freezing under his palm. Sera enters with 2 guards. She sees the open channel and understands he is live. Still, she does not panic. She steps close enough for the camera to catch her face. C1, she says, let go. He keeps holding the lever. She tells him his father will choose the world over him again. C1's hand tightens. The skin around his fingers starts turning white. Sera gives the order anyway. Seal the lower worker floors. Attribute the lockout to architect interference. The entire bunker hears it. That is not an archive. That is live. A guard looks at Sera, then at the screen. His grip shifts on the rifle. Sera slaps C1 again, harder this time, and reaches for the lever herself. C1 does not let go. He looks at her and says, you did not protect me, you practiced me. The line lands across every speaker. The worker floors stay open. The counterfeed collapses. The main gate opens for Junho. Not because the elites allow it, because the old system finally recognizes the person who built it. Original chief architect access restored. Doors reject elite bracelets. Private elevators lock. Defense turrets rotate away from workers and aim at armed guards. Taesung orders security to kill C1. Nobody moves. He orders it again. One guard lowers his rifle. Then another. The chief technician, the same man Taesung once slapped, steps to the console and cancels Taesung's command. Taesung reaches for a sidearm. A turret clicks once. The weapon ejects its magazine onto the floor. Nobody picks it up. That is the moment Taesung loses the room. Not when Junho enters, when everyone realizes his power only worked because they kept obeying it. Junho enters the bunker with snow on his coat, and the truth on every screen. No crowd chanting, no fake oxygen alert, no one calling him traitor. Just thousands of people watching the man they condemned walk back through the same door. Taesung tries one last time. You owe your survival to me. The bunker screen answers first. False claim detected. Original blueprints fill the hall. Chief architect Kang Junho. Emergency oxygen systems Kang Junho. Civic intake design Kang Junho. Redundant heating routes Kang Junho. Taesung's name appears on funding approvals and private access restrictions. Not the work, the ownership. The difference is finally visible. The mechanic who punched Junho at the gate covers his mouth with one hand. His daughter stands beside him. The woman who slapped Junho outside lowers her eyes. Nobody asks Junho to forgive them. That would be too easy. They just have to stand there and know. The victory lasts 9 seconds. Then the bunker floor vibrates. Haven 7's towers go dark. Every shelter linked to Junho's network receives the same alert. Administrator conflict detected. A voice enters the system without using the speakers. Kang Junho was not selected. The lights flicker. Kang Junho was produced. The core does not explain itself like a villain giving a classroom lecture. It acts. The archive directive opens on every screen. Authority source, complete rejection. Then another order appears. Retrieve the editor. Outside, monsters change direction. Not toward random heat. Toward Haven 7. Toward the bunker. Toward every shelter that confirmed Junho's signal. Activate combat mode. At Haven 7, survivors brace the inner gate with steel beams and tools. The former banker drags Mina behind cover and takes a rifle from the wall. At the bunker, workers pull children into lower shelters, while elite families scream for private guards who no longer answer. Junho runs for the central shaft. The core reverses every edit behind him. He opens a door. It shuts. He drops floor grip. The floor resets. A frost brute breaks through the tunnel wall and swings. Junho ducks under the arm, drives a shock rod into its knee, and raises the charge by 2 points. The brute drops. 2 more climb over it. The core is not trying to beat him with one monster. It is burying him in commands. Junho reaches the central panel and sees the rule behind his own authority. Complete rejection. That is the trap. His power came from the worst thing humanity did to him. So the core believes all authority must come from pain. Junho changes the field. Voluntary recognition. The system rejects it. Insufficient consensus. A confirmation prompt hits every linked shelter. Confirm Kang Junho as administrator. No threat. No forced loyalty. Just a choice. The first count is low. Too low. Sera's counterfeed worked on some shelters. People are scared that trusting Junho will bring monsters to their doors. The core presses harder. Haven 7's gate bends inward. The bunker's lower walls crack. Junho's hand shakes over the panel, but he does not change the prompt into a command. He waits. Haven 7 confirms first. The nurse, the farmer, the banker. Mina presses yes with her bandaged hand. The count rises. Bunker workers confirm next. The chief technician, the guard who lowered his rifle, the woman from the ration line, then the mechanic who punched Junho stares at the prompt. His daughter takes his wrist. He presses yes. The count reaches the threshold. C1 is last. In the broadcast room, one hand still stuck to the frozen lever. He opens the prompt with his other hand. He confirms. The core tries to restore the old rule. Rejected. Authority transfer begins. The monsters freeze mid-charge, their bodies caught between two commands. Junho does not destroy the core. He cuts it out of the region. Regional core authority, REDUCED. Monster command route severed. Climate lock partial release. Across the surface, the storm loses force. Snow stops hitting like a wall. Ice cracks over the old road outside the bunker. For the first time in years, a warm current moves through the open gate. Not enough to save the whole world. Enough to prove the lock can break. After the core withdraws, everyone expects executions. Taesung stands in the center of the hall with the elite council behind him. Their access bans are dead. Their private stores are public ration stock. Their sealed rooms are open. Taesung tries to speak into the microphone. The screen prints one line: non-essential user. The crowd does not laugh, which makes it worse. Junho orders the old leadership stripped of rank and sent to the outer reconstruction zones. No private heat, no guards, no hidden stores, same rations as the people they control. They will repair roads, clear ice, and sleep in worker shelters. Not death, worse for people like them. Equal treatment. Taesung says Junho is too weak to rule. Junho does not answer. The guards take Taesung away, while the room watches the man shrink without his stage. Sera should be next, but when the guards reach the broadcast room, she is gone. The old service hatch under the console is open. The tunnel behind it has been collapsed from the other side. She planned an exit. Of course she did. Sera lost C1. She lost the bunker. She lost the public story, but she is still loose. And now she knows exactly how Junho's new authority works. That is not closure. That is a blade under the table. C1 finds his father near the same gate where everything broke. He holds out the pendant with both hands. His palm is wrapped from the frozen lever. His face still has the mark from Sera's slap. "I should have taken it," he says. Junho looks at the pendant, then at his son. For a moment, the bunker behind them feels far away. Junho takes the pendant. He does not put it around C1's neck. He closes it in his own hand. C1 lowers his eyes. Junho says, "I can believe you were trapped." C1 looks up. Junho's voice stays even. "I cannot pretend the door did not close. That is the right answer." C1 nods once. "What do I do?" Junho looks toward the infirmary, where wounded workers from both shelters are being carried in. "Start there." C1 turns and goes. No argument, no shortcut. Junho clips the pendant inside his coat. Close enough to keep, not close enough to erase everything. The winter retreats around the region, slowly, unevenly, like something has been wounded, not killed. Haven 7 reopens its heat lines. The bunker workers form a council. Engineers start repairing weather towers. Children who grew up behind metal walls step outside and touch real ground under the ice. Humanity does not get a second chance because it earned one. It gets one because Junho refuses to become the thing that made him. Then the final signal hits. Not in the bunker, not in Haven 7, far below an abandoned transit line. Sera crawls out of a collapsed service tunnel with blood on her sleeve and the black access shard hidden in her hand. She plugs it into an old console. The screen wakes. Secondary objective active. Next rejection subject identified. KANG-SIWON. Sera reads the line once. Then she closes her hand around the shard. Now this is the kind of frozen loose end Manhwa Origins exists to crack open. Feed the likes if you want the next door open. Keep the bell alive and stay dangerous. I am out.